welcome back to IDAGIO Live and to our workshops on the Bach cello suite. Today, Gigue from the third suite. And my guest will be a cellist, and I would dare to say, on top of being a cellist, the cellist's greatest friend, because he created one of the most beautiful cello festivals that ever existed, the Amsterdam Cello Biennale. I'm talking about Martin Mostert, and he will be with us in about 20 minutes. So, we are about to finish the third suite and thus the first half of our great journey through the 6 suites. So this is our 18th episode. I can hardly believe it myself. It's been very intense for me to prepare all these episodes and to receive your questions and to have this exchange with all of you. So I hope this was also valuable experience for some of you. And I look forward to enter the world of the fourth suite next week. Today I am coming to you from Riga, the capital city of Latvia, a wonderful place that I recommend to everybody. And I would like to use this episode to, of course, we'll say a few words about the Gigue, but maybe this is, as I've said before, the Gigues and the bourrées are movements on which there is not so much, it's not as, the material is not as thick, I would say, as in the slow movements and in the preludes. So I will spend maybe 10 minutes on it. And then to finish this first half of our journey, I would like to come back to two subjects that I've touched, which is vibrato, and there was a general question about style and about color of certain movements that I received, and I would like to come back to this as a sort of touchdown on some basics at the middle of our journey. So first, the Gigue itself. I will play the beginning of it. Sorry, I just thought I was going to play only the first phrase, but then I got excited and couldn't stop playing. So, how does Bach give us this energy, this this inspiration to dance? So he's giving this to us with something a tool that he has been using in other movements, as we talked about, which is he creates a lot of energy between the different voices. So immediately after the first scale, by the way, ascending scale, which is a sort of response to the descending scale that we had at the beginning of the prelude, remember? And here we do an ascending scale, and then immediately he starts jumping between the voices. So here he goes down, and all this creates this this buoyancy that we have had throughout this suite. here he starts from this point. He starts a series of small sequences of 4 bars with little modulations. So, note that this time he modulated to A minor, but without the G sharp that we need to modulate to A minor is only implied. We don't play it. It's here. It's there in the harmony, but we don't play it. G major. So we have done our modulation to G major. And then he starts, again, a pedal. This is a word we've used a lot, or in German they call it Orgelpunkt, which is where there is a note that is going to stay all the time. And then, so see how he uses something that many composers will use. Later, Brahms will use it a lot also, this sort of jumping, so that our arm is really dancing, literally. And then he starts making the opposite dancing by starting now from the upper note. And this gives again a lot of energy. And then he starts an ascending. Brings a little drama with the E flat. So touching the idea that we are in minor. And now adding drama by playing a very dissonant. The appoggiature of the D, so the C sharp together with the D, and then the final cadence. One important thing to say as a suggestion for the breathing of this jig, I think I've said before that it's always important to have the step, the feeling of the jig. How is the dance that you are playing at the moment? You know, can you yourself can you feel the groove? And in this case, it's clearly always, almost always, a series of 4 bars and going to the 3rd bar. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And of course, as we have seen in other movements, what's interesting is that after really installing this, so we're getting to this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's really getting us into the mood, into the groove. And then he, of course, wants to make longer segments. And that's where the pedal starts. That this time we're not. He sneaks into the next segment. Which is 8 bar longs before he does his final cadence. One thing I wanted to mention again is that he could have done this pedal in many different ways, but when he gets there, he could have written a. But he really wanted to have something very rhythmical, like like if there was a percussion coming in and every note is being scanned. And you will notice that in the autograph of Anna Magdalena, this is in the whole 6th suite. This bar is the only one where we have dots on the notes, where we have the suggestion that we should actually lift the bow. And nowhere else in the suite you see such a suggestion, which is also, remember one of the things that Anno Belsma told us: don't leave the bow from the string when you play the Bach suite. In the second half, after a few different episodes, I want to bring your attention to the way Bach brings back the pedal point in the piece. You know this. So first time, remember, that means from below, right, and my pedal is on top, and then we go. Well, this time in the second half of this Gigue, after he starts what was the middle of our pedal point section in the first part. He takes in the middle as if we were again there, really literally the same, but then of course he goes on in a different ways, bringing dissonance, and then we are now again from underneath, again from above, and then we go on with actually the equivalent. But I find interesting how he manages to create another kind of dynamic in the pedal moment, and a more, I would say it has 3 episodes, whereas in the first time around it had really clearly 2 episodes. Little detail, but which I like, is that after having an ending of the B part, which is similar to the A part, he does an ascending arpeggio to finish very positively, whereas the first time we finished down. And of course he wants to finish this whole third suite with ascending arpeggios plus a very generous chord that we love, all cellists, the big chord of C major. Now I want to go on to my 2 little points I wanted to talk about. A question that Jean-Guihen Queyras sent me a while ago, and I sort of touched it but very briefly, was he was talking about modern instrument, Baroque, dance, and how to bring that together. But the second part of his question was, what color should I explore to play a certain dance? And the reason I want to talk about this now is that now that we are in the middle of our journey through the Bach suite, you might have seen what my philosophy about this is, about what color should I explore for a certain dance, is that I think this can be determined by the way you go into this dance. And to recapitulate, I would say that the way to go is first, how do the steps, how does this dance groove? What are its steps? Dance it and then sing it. For example, like the Gigue of today. See, is it going? Is it 2 bar sections? Is it well, that might be a bit repetitive. Or and then okay, I get this 4 bar thing. This is how it's breathing. Once you have this movement, this motion, this basic motion of the movement, sing it, and many things will come very naturally. And then maybe take the time to look at tonalities and what they can suggest, you know, when, oh, if Bach does this modulation here, maybe go to the piano if you play a little bit of piano. I would never dare to play piano in public. I've played a few chords for you guys just to show some harmonic process, but this is it. Just playing, going from one chord to the other. What does this harmony do to me? And what can it do to the people who will listen to me? And then, having sung, then yes, try to play, try to find technical solutions that fit your inner singing and your inner dynamic. And then comes the bowing question, but within this singing. And then I think the color and the character, we already in a way have covered it with all this process. So I think that the process is what gives you some input, some information about how to choose which kind of bowing, which kind of stroke, which kind of you know, is the sound going to be really sustained, or is it going to be let your arm swing with your inner singing. I think this is my suggestion. And I also want to come back to a question by Eve, who was asking about vibrato. And once I talked about it, but quite briefly, and I want to come back to it. So basically, as we've seen in the very first of these workshops, the prelude of the first suite, the central thing in Bach's language, including in our suite, is the harmony. And the harmony is the combination of notes together. And this is why when I play a fifth like this, I get a sense of harmony. And when I add a third to this, these three notes, they combine together to give us a sense of harmony. And this process of these notes combining together it's not just out of the blue, it's in the nature of the way the notes, the way they are produced. They are produced by frequencies, by vibrations, and the number of these vibrations between these three notes, they combine together. So that's why when you hear, for example, particularly when you hear a choir and you hear several voices together singing different notes, and you hear how these notes blend together, maybe you will start crying, or you will start feeling such feel fulfilled by this sense of harmony. So the point I want to make is that these frequencies that each of these notes produce and giving us a sense of harmony. If I start, I will now exaggerate a little bit, but when I vibrate a note, what I do is that I give this particular note a richness. Yes, I do give it a bit more substance, but I also, through this process, in a way, I blur its frequency. So the frequency, instead of being, I don't know if this particular note is 335 hertz, and then instead of that it will be constantly changing, and because of that it will be less inclined to truly combine and marry with the other notes of the chord, of the harmony, and therefore it will give us less a sense of belonging together. And if I do now, of course now I exaggerated and gave a large vibrato. So it doesn't mean that vibrato is forbidden. And also my point is also that in dealing with vibrato, don't think that it's a question about being stylistically right or wrong. It's more about how much can I get out, how much can I get my different notes connected. And also, this doesn't mean at all that I am never vibrating in Bach, not at all. Sometimes I like to bring out a note in itself, for itself, with some vibrato. And also, and this is between us, I sometimes vibrate where I shouldn't. I am far from being a great example for this, and I will even confess to you that sometimes I play trio, piano trio with two wonderful friends, Alexander Melnikov on the piano and Isabelle Faust on the violin. And they are both, you know, really so demanding with themselves about doing exactly what serves the music. And Isabelle on the violin is particularly, she uses vibrato in such a meaningful way. You know, she knows exactly how much and why she vibrates. And sometimes in our trio rehearsal, they turn to me and they say, Jean-Guihen, they tell to me, you know, what are you doing? You know, this note, why are you vibrating? And then I just realized that I was just, you know, indulging in just vibrating, and that it's true that it's not serving the music at that moment. So this is just to give you a taste of how I look at vibrato. And now we are 20 minutes past 8. I will put my cello down, and this will be the moment to call my dear friend Martin to join us. And I will put on my headphones, and I will ask Martin if he can join us for a conversation. Dear Martin, are you there?
I'm there already.
Hey, dear Martin, wonderful to see you. You are in Amsterdam right
Yes.
now? Okay, has everything been okay with the whole situation of what happened in the last month?
You're sort of liberal, and now, of course, the number of people infected is increasing a little bit, like everywhere in Europe. But still, we can deal with it.
Okay,
Sort of
great, great.
lockdown we had, but
And also, I want to tell our viewers that you have amazingly managed to hold on to the great project of the Cello Biennale, which this year, which will take place this year in the second half of October, and that despite the situation, there will be a Cello Biennale, not quite the same as usual, I suppose. Do you want to tell us just a few words about this?
well, in the end we decided to keep the program almost as how it was, but of course there has to be more space on the stage, so 1.5 meter between all the musicians. So it means that, for instance, the piece that we planned to play together, that you would play Bartok, we couldn't do because too many people in the orchestra. So we had to find another beautiful concerto for you to play. And also in the audience, we have instead of 750, there will be 200 people. So we'll lose a lot of money, but it's money is only money. So, and I thought it was very important that we keep this hope, that after summer, at least, I know you were playing now and then, but there should be something big in Amsterdam, a big festival, and from 10 days.
Fantastic.
Didn't want to stop, but we had to start again. All the times have to be different. People have to register when they enter the Muziekgebouw in Amsterdam, and it will be very complicated. Normally we make, you remember, fresh orange juice at the beginning of the day, where you have every morning a Bach suite, at 9:30 in the morning, and before that at 7:30 we start making the oranges ourselves, the orange juice and the warm croissant, and then, but of course now we cannot touch it. We will do it, but with a big machine, and
Yeah.
it will be different, but still I'm looking forward.
Yeah, so this is before we talk about other things and about our friend Arno Belsma, because I have some questions to you about him, because you were so close to him. But before that, just because you touched your from the very first Biennale in 2006, you started this great project, Bach and Breakfast, having a Bach suite played by a different cellist, all six suites played, and you have had now since then, if I'm not mistaken, in every single edition you have had the six suites played in the morning.
By six different cellists. So if you were lucky, you played in 2006, you played number 4. Well, you have to practice it now again.
That's done.
But joke. But anyhow, you know, so that's you don't need to play anymore at 9:30 in the morning. But yet,
Which is indeed a challenge. Yes,
yes, it is.
I confirm. Yeah. So you, Martin, you have studied with Anno Bijlsma, and people following this show know that he's been so central to me, but to so many other people, and particularly in the understanding of Bach. And not only have you studied with him, but you have been since then his very close friend until his very last days. And I remember this beautiful homage concert that you organized at the Biennale for his 80th birthday.
Yeah.
How do you, I mean, Anner and the Bach suites, there are his books, there is his teaching, you probably, how is he for you, was he always inspiring? Has he been intimidating sometimes? Has he been, was it sometimes too heavy on your shoulders, or was he just again and again an inspiration for you?
Mainly the last thing. And well, you knew him yourself also quite well, and I adored him, and I still adore him. By the way, not only for his Bach suites, he's sort of world famous, and every cellist will admit, for Bach, he has, for me, he was the first one I heard playing on Baroque cello. Before that, I grew up with Paul Tortelier and Pablo Casals playing the Bach suites. So, and then suddenly I heard in Amsterdam somebody playing Bach on a Baroque cello. I didn't know what I heard. What? No sound, no vibrato. What are you doing? But then I started to really love it. And then we had, of course, orchestra of the 18th century in Amsterdam, and we had string quartets on period instruments long before Quatuor Mosaic. We had several quartets like that. So my interest was always there. And well, Bijlsma, he was not intimidating. He was my hero, but simple like that. But he was a very warm person, and super convincing. And he loved discussion, but it was hard to go in real discussion with him, well.
Why?
Well, if somebody like him would say something, he's one of those few persons, you don't want to well, you can discuss with him. I could discuss everything, politics with him, but about musical taste, that's something very hard to go against with him. Mm-hmm. And of course I had many discussions about him with all these issues about the slurs, of course, in the suite. And when he started all these books, the fencing master, about all the slurs, he was showing me, and what I found now, and it's really, in his last few years, he became more and more like a maniac, like you finish a movement down bow, so next movement has to start up bow, and it became a little bit sort of history on itself, but there are so many good ideas in this. Mm-hmm. So he's still my inspiration, but again, I want to say this, not only about Bach, how he played Servet or Messiaen or second concerto of Shostakovich, it was amazing.
Absolutely. You asked me to play for the next Biennale a sonata which I have never played, which I didn't know, by a Dutch composer, Vermeulen. And you sent me a link to listen to the sonata played by Anner, and absolutely, first of all, beautiful music, very beautiful music. Time of Debussy, about something like this, and very beautiful colors, absolutely gorgeous piece, and played by Anner so beautifully. I mean, this sound is so gripping.
And the pianist, you remember?
In the recording? No, to be honest, I'm not sure. I was so
Reinbert de
forgetting.
Leeuw, the
It's Rein.
conductor who died this year. Well, in Holland we lost a few icons the last 5 years. You know, Frans Brugge first, and Gustav Leonard from the old music scene more, and then Anna Bijlsma a little bit more than 1 year ago, and then a few months ago, Reinbert de Leeuw died. So
Yeah,
this whole
extraordinary musician.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. And so, um, to come back to the fencing master, what have you? If you do you give it to read to your students, to your own students, for example? I mean, do you recommend it?
Yes, I do recommend it, and that's very friendly said. But of course, you have to read if you are interested student. You know, you have to read everything you can get about this Bach suite. You can also read Alexanian. You know, I don't care, but there are many good ideas everywhere, and this is something well, very pure, very original. It's really talking about the manuscript, and that's your Holy Bible. And I must say, in some aspects, I'm even more Catholico than the Pope. You know, I'm his student, so I'm his disciple, so I'm sometimes even more extreme. But at the other side, I say, oh, fuck Bijlsma, don't do this. Just do 2 apps, you know, that's easier. And because he always wants to go
Never.
Malzo, you know, and then you go up, and then second time repeat you the opposite. You get super confused, you know. This,
I know. Yeah, yeah. It gets so complicated sometimes, and some of my students who I'm very happy, because they come, they say, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to follow exactly, Anna Magdalena with, with the reading of Anna Belsma as well." And then I see how their brain is smoking, when they play one movement, because you can never let go. It's like
yeah.
it's so tricky.
He has some reason for it, and so he said that in our time, you know, nowadays everybody plays by heart. And I remember after I saw his book for the first time, you know, I had to play only the first suite again, but I had to learn all new bowings. You know, it took me so much time to learn it by heart. You know, simply the first suite. So it's quite thin. But he said in this time people were not used to play by heart, so they easily could adapt. But it's not the main thing, you know, that you know exactly his suggestions in his last book. He wrote for every movement, for every suite. He wrote his suggestions for bowings. I don't agree with it at all. I mean, there are many things that I think, okay, it's very discutable, you know, if the slur is over 3 notes or 4 notes or 2 notes, you know, and then you can not make very super big conclusions, of course. But the idea, you know, that if there is clearly a slur, you should not play all the notes separate, or you should not play automatically repeat the same pattern, you know, always the same bowing, but you know, make some more variations and speak a little bit more. I think that's very true.
There
Oh,
is
by the way, Jean-Guihen,
yes, yeah.
one secret I want to share with you. There are 2 more places in the Bach suites where are dots.
Oh, tell me. I
In
never
the,
realized that in the
in
Gigue
the
of the first
second bar,
suite.
yeah, in the second bar of the second half of the Gigue of the sixth suite, also only 3 notes or so.
Oh,
It's,
wonderful.
yeah, it's just fun. It's not important at all.
It is, it is. Yes, yes, it's
No,
wonderful.
still, I
Wonderful.
don't understand it, what it means, because then in the repeat, he's not doing it, and why suddenly these 3 dots, you know? Does it really mean the only place where the bow can come off the string? I don't know.
But did Anna talk about this? I mean, because he said never leave the string. Does that concern also these places where there is dots, or?
There's no truth here. Let's not worry about it. And nothing then good about the deads. So,
Right.
of course, you have to leave sometimes the string, and you know, it's only these 3 notes suddenly dots. Should that really have this meaning? Only 3 notes or 6 notes, then maybe in 36 movements you can. I'm not so sure.
What
So
struck me about Anna is that beyond this aspect of the bowings, that he he was such well, an orateur. I mean, such a he would every time he would put the bow on the string, he would start telling a story, and we would all be really taken by that. And what I find interesting is that in his teaching, he was also a great storyteller. He was always, he had an endless imagination, uh, and sometimes both in his playing and in what he said. And let me know if you disagree what I say. But on the first intense, you would have the feeling, for example, in his teaching, that he was telling a lot of anecdotes, that it was all about, little things, little unimportant things. And I remember this first intense encounter I had in France with this 1 week course when the whole week we were exploring the Bach suites. And he was telling these little anecdotes, and he starts telling a story where you think, what does this have to do with what we're just doing now? And unseemingly, he helps you to get a lot of, I don't know, like oxygen or input from many different things that, without even noticing, will feed your musical desires and your playing. And I had the feeling that in his playing it's the same thing. It didn't come on stage like with his person, like some like oh now he has a project or something. He came also, he was taking his cello, looking right and left and starting to play, but then it was all about the music. So I don't know. So
Well,
basically the point what I'm
it could
sorry.
be one concert. He could play same piece one day like shit, and the next day heavenly. I heard him playing one of the violin partitas in Amsterdam, and it was, he really could make a mess of it. Or no sound, no contact with his gut strings and with the baroque bow, and the next day in London, people were amazed. It's same piece. He didn't practice in between, probably. I mean. And that's the amazing, miraculous thing about him, exactly as you tell, he would tell all these little anecdotes, but there was always a thought behind, you still remember the anecdote, but at the same time, he was seeding or planting some seeds in your mind. And he always wanted to think yourself, It's also a little bit contradictory with this book. He always said, no, you have to keep discussing, you have to talk about it, you have to think yourself, and don't try to be a copy or to don't try to copy me. And It was very lively, and very telling. I still remember his last concert was in fact in the Biennale. Maybe you were there already. He opened a series of Bach and Breakfast with the first Bach suite. He only could play with 3 fingers in his left hand. The intonation was maybe not 100% perfect. But having said that, it was still with his bow so telling, and everybody knew, of course, also it was very strange atmosphere because it was immediately first Bach and Breakfast sold out 9:30 in the morning, and there were a lot of his fans also, and everybody realized it could have been one of his last concerts, which it turned out to be, indeed. And he played this first suite, from the first till the last note, he was telling his story, quite slow prelude.
Wonderful.
Many things.
Wonderful. So, well, Martin, thank you so much for sharing all this, because I know that so with all these Bach and breakfasts at your festival, maybe the Bach suites, you've had it. Maybe I was thinking, that maybe you don't want to talk about them anymore. But as I can see,
endless. No, there's so much to think and to hear, and also I must say I like all the different styles. Of course, there's quite difference between Misha Maisky and Christophe Coin, or you and Alban Gerhardt, or Giovanni Solima, whoever, or Nicolas, that's that's the fun in music, you know, and we try not to copy each other, but you know, you hear all these different stories. That makes it very interesting.
Yeah, I remember how you probably it was 4 years ago or 6 years ago when how enthusiastically you came out of Raphael Pidou's Fifth Suite. I
Yeah,
remember we met afterwards and you say, "Oh, did you hear that? I just
yeah,
heard a
yeah,
Fifth Suite. It was so inspiring, and I could see you so much sparkle in your eyes." And I thought, well, that's it. You know, when someone can, he heard probably his 250th Fifth Suite, and he's
yeah, my boy, yeah, yeah.
still as enthusiastic as the first day. So that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, dear Martin, for
Yeah,
all of
seriously.
this, and have a great Biennale. I'm so happy that I will see you there. I can't wait, of course, and because the moment it's always in from one day to the other, some surprises, sometimes good ones, sometimes not so good ones, but
Mostly very good one.
yes,
See
yes,
you
yes.
again. Thank you. Thank
So
you.
second half of October. Thank you, Martin, and everybody. I see you next Friday, and we will start our journey uh, with the fourth suite, with the prelude of the fourth suite, which is a totally different world in a way. So I look forward to that. See you there.